Hello, folks. How are you today? Welcome to the Human Music live stream. This is a very special one because this live stream marks the end of the first cycle of compositions for the upcoming humanmusic.org website, which is going to be my own private stash of bangers for royalty-free use, mostly out there in the world. I've already composed hundreds of songs for the YouTube audio library as well as the Facebook sound collection. And I'm kind of known here on YouTube for that, as well as for my work with synthesizers. I can't, bad hair day today. I can't get my hair to look cool with these headphones on. And so I decided to start my own personal music library. Um, without needing to have a commission from any of these clients, and they'll be hosted in humanmusic.org, and that gives me even more freedom. These clients give me a lot of freedom, actually. YouTube are very happy with pretty much all that I've offered them so far. I don't think I've had one rejection. Same with Facebook. But it's still cool to be working for myself and for you folks. And I had decided from the very beginning that once I had 10 tracks finished, that I would publish them as an album. It would be called Human Music Volume 1. And that happened yesterday. We finished the Spy Jazz song, and that was song number 10. I have 11 here on this folder, but the very first stream, I didn't follow up on it. I started a composition, I wasn't sure about it, and then I just sort of abandoned it. So that means we have 11 finished songs and one kind of a sketch, right? So let me open the chat here so I can see if anybody is here. Say hi, folks. Is Methupa here? Is Breeze here? Is Lumimia here? Say hi to me, folks, if you are. Hoofjaw, how are you guys doing this day of May 21st, 2025? So, all right. So the first thing I did was replace my speakers. I had these Atom Audio speakers that I bought for Christmas, but one of them started acting up. It's over there. Started buzzing. The tweeter cavity started buzzing on it when I for on low notes, and that's unacceptable. I can't mix like that. So I put my JBLs back on. These are the LSR 305 Mark IIs and matching subwoofer over here, and I'm super used to using these. I've been using these speakers for much longer than the Atoms, so I'm probably even more comfortable using them. Now, what I'll do is I'll probably do the initial work of checking the mix with headphones. So I'll be hearing the same as you folks. And then the final listen, as I get ready to bounce the tracks, I will go speaker. So you hear some of the sound from the air. I apologize for that, but it's a necessary step. I will not consider a mix finished until I've heard it on speakers. Headphones are nice, but you need to listen through speakers before you can consider something finished. So that's what we'll do. And then once we have a bounce of each song, and this is also my last chance of making any adjustments, right? So I'll listen to each song very carefully, with the benefit of being a little distant in time from when they were initially made. And I'll listen critically and make any adjustments anything that jumps out to me. I won't get too nitpicky because I don't have a lot of time. Again, I only have about 2 hours for this stream. By the way, tomorrow I have a job. I have to I have to compose a stem, not a stem, compose a cue for a very high profile film that I'm pitching to be part of the composition team. Um, so I'm gonna focus on that tomorrow. So today we're gonna create, uh, and then after I finish the stream, I will upload to the streaming platforms the finished Human Music Volume 1 album featuring all these 10 songs we've done since we started this nice habit of streaming every day. And then tomorrow we'll take a break. I think it's good punctuation. We'll take a break, and I'll be working hard over here on this cue for a film, and hopefully I'll get accepted. My option will be the chosen one, and it'll mean I'll be um, involved in composing for a very high-profile film, it seems, and that's cool news too, right? So, is anyone here? Am I all alone? I'm gonna check on my phone, see if anybody's watching. I can't help it. I need to know if I'm talking to dead air. 3 people watching, it says. Okay. It's okay, you can lurk. You don't have to come in the chat. Is anyone here? If you don't want to. I'm just happy to know that there are 4 people hanging out here with me today. And so without further ado, let's get started. We're going to go all the way back to March 21st. All right, so it's been 2 months, right? From March 21st to May 21st. Wow, exactly 2 months, folks. So yeah, the first song that was actually finished was the hip hop song. So we're gonna open that up. Composing live 2. There's even, oh yeah, that's the video capture of the stream. Uh, there are a couple. Oh yeah, because it was 3 days, I think. So we have 3 videos here. But the Pro Tools session is this one right here. We're gonna open that up. We're gonna have a good critical listen to the song. Make any minor adjustments that might be necessary to the mix and master. Come on, why isn't Pro Tools opening? Pro Tools is not responding. Oh, well, let's force quit Pro Tools and start it up again. And once we're happy with the song, we'll make a bounce. And then when I have the 10 bounces, you will get to see my process for mastering, which entails basically opening up a session of Pro Tools with all 10 songs, each one on its own track, and making adjustments to make them all sound coherent as part of one record. So that will be fun. So looks like Pro Tools is back to life. This is going to be cool. I'm excited to go back and listen to all these songs and then to finally be able to publish them. So the first thing, uh, the, the the reason I'm doing this is so that they already have ISRC codes and are properly like set up in Content ID everywhere as belonging to me, as being my songs with me as the author and all that. And then eventually, when the website is up, I can post them there and they can be used. But you can already use them. If I'll upload them to SoundCloud, for example. No, not SoundCloud, Bandcamp, right? The album will go into Bandcamp as well at Name Your Price. So you can go there and download the songs for free and use them in your stuff because already they'll be registered with my PRO and everything. And anywhere that generates royalties, I will get those royalties. And you, the end user, will probably never be charged because they'll be free on YouTube. And already Facebook and Instagram and TikTok don't charge you for using people's songs. But they do pay us a little bit of royalties when these songs get used on their platform. So, it's taking a long time to load this Pro Tools session. I wonder what's up. Weird. Here are all the audio files. Should I force quit again? Let's see. Yeah, the application is not responding. Weird. Okay. Now, normally I would restart the computer when something like this happens, so this weirdness happens. But in this case, if I did that, I would lose the stream and I would have to restart the live stream, which I'm hoping not to have to do. So here's a trick. A trick that you can do. Just open the Pro Tools and start a new session and then use a command called import session data. And I will, you know, what might be happening. Some of my plugins might not be compatible with the current operating system of the Macintosh. I noticed that happened with the Swarm instruments that I had tried to use yesterday, I think. I had to update them, so I might need to update my waves. Um, let's check that. That could be the problem, actually. I can also try like opening another session over here from the recent list. Yeah, see that opened. So there's probably a conflict with the plugin. Now, does this use waves? Yeah, it uses the Renaissance EQ, so it can't be the waves. That's the problem, right? This has very few plugins, in fact. We might as well start with this one then, perhaps. Oh, it's asking, Waves is asking me to close OBS Studio and Pro Tools in order to continue running. So that's not going to work. We're going to quit that. All right, so let's start with this one. This is the SWAM. SWAM are the physical modeling software instruments that I use from audio modeling in Italy, and I used the instrument to control them, right? So you can go back and watch that stream if you didn't already. But right now we're just gonna focus on mixing the song. So we're gonna listen to it and so this song is pretty experimental, kind of avant-garde, right? So the parameters for determining if the mix sounds good are very, I mean, they're always subjective, but in this case, more so. But it does feel, it feels a little unfinished. So I think we should go over each instrument just a tiny, just to, you know, have a quick listen to each thing. Like, for example, I feel like these drums are a little unbalanced. They're a little heavy on the right side. And that was it right there. See, I just needed to lower the right overhead a wee bit, and now they feel more centered. All right, that was it. They have a little bit of a compression on the master here. Maybe we can add some EQ for clarity as well. So just a little bit of Renaissance EQ4 here with a wee bit of high end. Maybe we can clean up the lows a little bit too. This sounds better already. Now we can move on to our string bass section. Now there's some reverb, some room in there already from the plugin itself, the software instrument itself. I think this needs a little compression. Just to give it a little bit of presence. We might as well add some EQ too, in case we need it. I'm gonna go ahead and again clean up a little bit of the low mids there and put a filter down at the very, very low frequencies. Just, you know, kind of common practice to keep the rumbles away. Even though this is soft synth, so it's not mic'd. It's not like a truck passed by outside and it picked it up. You know, it's not that realistic. a model. It only models the instrument, not any like defects from capture. This is it says Barry. It doesn't quite sound like a baritone. I guess it is though. So this is a baritone saxophone. And the positioning of these instruments, of the software instruments, on the stereo field was done in their own space, right? The software has this window where you can position them in a simulated stage. So these instruments are already, you leave the panning as it is here on the mixer because you already did all of the panning in the software. So let's give all of these guys EQ. I feel like they're a little muddy. We'll give them each EQ. So what you do is you select all the tracks you want to add EQs to with a shift, right? You click on one of them. Well, let's get rid of this click, right? I don't want to see what I don't need. So you choose cello up to baritone. And shift option on Pro Tools means whatever you do to one will happen to all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and open the neutron on all four because the neutron includes an equalizer as well as compressor. So I don't need to open a second plugin. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of tame low mids on all of them. I think they're masking each other a little bit. In fact, there's a masking thing here on neutron. That's an advanced feature that I haven't learned how to use yet. But I think there's a way to have if you have neutrons on many tracks, to have it check for masking from different tracks and fix it automatically for you. I'm not that advanced. I still do things manually by ear for the most part. Right? This is a kind of a benevolent use of artificial intelligence, if you can call it that. People call things that are not really artificial intelligence. I mean, this is just an algorithm that analyzes frequencies and proposes a filtering. I'm not sure I would call that AI. I think calling it AI is just more of a marketing thing. I'm just kind of listening and giving each instrument a sound, right? Let's listen to just the cello here. Oh, this is a baritone. The bari is really sounding like a cello, in my opinion. It could be how I articulate it more than anything. Here's a clarinet. Let's check the EQ on that clarinet. A little bit of compressor. Make sure you get it out of the multiband compressor and use modern or vintage instead of punch, and lower the threshold to where it starts acting. Right, I think a little compression will be helpful in this scenario. Oh, a little delay on the clarinet. Sounded nice. So who's here today, folks? Where are my usual suspects? Yeah, let's filter out a little more of the low mids here from the cello, because we do have a bass section here, and we're gonna add reverb to the bass, just so it's in the same room as the rest of the instruments. And usually I like to have the compressor after the EQ, because the EQ will change how the compressor will behave, right? Put a little compressor on the soprano sax too. Well, what is it sounding like solo? Let me see. It's a little dark. Let's give it some brightness there. There. Let's get that nice like honk going there, and we can filter out some lows. Doesn't even have them anyway. And we'll add the compressor. And again, it starts out as multiband. You have to select high, mid, or low. So click here so it's acting over the whole thing. I'll choose vintage, put the ratio up a little bit and bring down the threshold. And that'll just sort of like contain a little bit of the dynamic variation. You can still hear, when you play loud, it's just subtle, just a tiny bit. Now, a lot of the density and masking is happening because of how I composed this. I didn't do it in a very conscious way. I just sort of improvised these lines over each other. And there's dissonances, and redundancies as far as frequency ranges and things like that. So it's just kind of something I need to accept as part of my composition method, part of what this piece is like. But I think I did already kind of clean up a little bit. I hadn't done much mixing at all on this song. I just pretty much composed it and left it, So now let's let the drums back in and kind of find the balance. And the next thing would be to listen if we want to do any automation, like if we feel like anything should be more prominent or less prominent in any particular section. and do that. So let's have a listen from the beginning. Oh, also there's the melodica. We forgot to check the melodica. The melodica seems to already have a EQ and compressor. So sounds pretty good as it is. Maybe a little delay would be nice on it too. Like we already have on the clarinet. Yeah, like, oh no, wait. This is the strings. Oh, it already has. The melodic already has delay. Quite a bit of it, actually. You know, here's something that I can do automation on. We're going to put this on automation touch. And as we listen to the song, we will play with the melodica traveling from left to right. That'll make it a more dynamic mix instead of so static. Oh, what happened to my camera there? Seems to have turned off by itself. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Let's go. Let's see if we can reload it. There it is. It's back. I wonder what happened. Okay. So we're back to seeing my lovely face here. And nobody said hi to me in the chat yet. Come on, folks. All right, so we're going to listen from the beginning, and we're going to grab that melodica panning knob and play with, moving it. And I'd rather do this with an actual knob, but I do have a controller that could be used for that, but I'm not going to waste time setting that up. The mouse is good enough, and I don't use a normal mouse. I use a trackball, which is a little better than a regular mouse for this kind of a thing. So that's what we're going to use. Let's go. What a difference this makes. So sounding so static, and now with just one instrument traveling around, all of a sudden it's much more alive. And I'm improvising it, right? I'm just listening and going with my gut. Nice. Already I don't feel like this sounds so like the song is sounding so unfinished and rough anymore. There's, with this little bit of EQing and compression, a little bit more care with levels, um, making sure that the drums are balanced, and don't feel like heavy towards one side or the other, and creating a little bit of motion with the melodica. I already feel like this is much better. We can maybe bring the melodica volume up a tiny bit to let it be a little bit more on protagonistic. Now we can watch the fader, the knob, move by itself as I've recorded automation on it. Maybe the drums can be a little louder too. Now, let's jump to where it gets loud, just to see how we're doing with headroom here, because it seems like it's hitting 0 here. We don't want that. So, yeah, see? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna choose everybody, but we have to be careful, because, for example, the drums have a sub channel. So if we lower the sub as well as the individual channels, we're lowering the drums twice, right? We're lowering it before it hits the compressor, so the compressor will act differently. So you have to make sure, if we want to bring everybody down, you have to account for the subgroups. So we're just going to grab the subgroup, the cello, the clarinet, the soprano sax, the baritone, the strings, and the melodica. And none of the sends, right? Because already as we lower the volume of these tracks, the reverb these reverbs are post fader, so they'll be lowered automatically as well. And so if we lower the reverb and delay, will be again reducing their volume twofold. Once from lowering the sends, because these are post fader, and once from lowering the return channels. And again, just remember that all of the drums are going to this subgroup here. So when we lower the subgroup, we were already lowering the drums. We don't need to do it with individual channels as well. And doing so would actually be change our balance and change the way that the compressor is reacting. So I've said that twice just to make sure that it's clear. I hope it's clear. And what I'll do is I'll create a group here, and I'll call it just the level adjust group. Level adjustment, which means it's a group I'm going to use temporarily just to reduce the volume and give us more headroom so that the bounce. And now what we can do is, if it's too soft now for our listening pleasure, I can turn up the monitoring a tiny bit, right? There we go. I think this is probably good. Let's have a listen. This is the loud portion here, right? Let's just have a look over here and see if it's still hitting the 0 and still hitting red. Not anymore. It's at minus 6 dB here approximately. So that, yeah. Now, some people say, oh, I like to mix at minus 12 or mix at minus 6. It doesn't matter as long as you're not clipping, right? All the headroom you need is enough to not clip, not hit the digital 0. Any more than that, you can use if you want to. It might have been important in the days of tape, but honestly, for digital like this, that's all you need. Just make sure you're not hitting 0 over here, right? So uh, maybe let's go ahead and do an online bounce. So we listen to the bounce of this, and if we don't like anything, we could stop it. Right? So for that, I'm just gonna see where the end is. When does the song actually go all the way to silence? So including any reverb tails, delay tails, anything. And right here seems to be a good place. Right here, we're gonna put a marker there. Now let's just check the beginning, see if it starts right at the beginning, if it already makes a sound. And it seems like it doesn't. It seems like there's a tiny bit of silence there in the beginning too. So I made another locator there, and now we can select between both. And this is how long the song is. It's 2 minutes and 53 seconds long. I'm not going to put anything on the master here because this is not going to be my final bounce of this song, right? If it were, I would already do a little bit of mastering at the end here on the master fader. But we know we're going to open all of these songs in their own in an individual mastering session once I'm done with all the mixing. So we're just going to leave the master fader empty. We will make sure that there's enough headroom here that's not clipping. And we're not going to worry about the loudness of this song just yet. We just want it to sound nice, well mixed, balanced and EQ'd, compressed, and all that. And we'll worry about the loudness of it when we open the mastering session for it. And we're going to go ahead and bounce it. But I'll make sure to not click offline here. And we'll keep the resolution high. So 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. It's not super high, but it's probably what I used originally. So here we're going to choose human music. I'm going to make a subfolder here called Volume 1 Master. Create. And that's where we'll put all our bounces. And we'll bounce in real time while listening, right? Because then we can do very active, attentive listening and make sure that nothing jumps out as an issue. And go. All right, so as I braided my hair, I listened intently to the song, and I mean, I have my criticisms of it artistically, but as far as the mix goes of the composition as it stands, I think it's fine. And finished is better than perfect, in my opinion. Plus, we have a whole bunch of songs to go over today. Hi, Mitupa. Good to see you here. Uh, Thanks for joining. So, today we're listening to all 10 songs that we've done so far and giving them their last little touches. I forgot to listen to this song through speakers. So, that's the last thing we're going to do. We're going to turn on my speakers here. I'm going to remove my headphones. I'm actually going to turn off my microphone so that you're not hearing it through my microphone. You're only hearing it through the system. And we're going to have one last listen to this song before we can call it mixed. And then we'll go on to the next song. And at the end of the 10 songs, we'll open a mastering session if there's still time and do a little mastering. So that's going to be fun. You get to see my really cool mastering procedure to make sure that the songs all fit in the same album. You can hit play and not have to be adjusting volume and EQ as you listen. You just hit play once at the beginning of the album, listen to the whole thing in consistent loudness and frequency spectrum balance and all that. Even though the genres are very varied, right? Yeah, sometimes very different in speakers, but in headphones it's quite good. Exactly. So I'm not going to call this uh, Methupa. I'm not going to call this song mixed yet because I just mixed it on headphones until now. So here we go. I'm going to mute my headphones and hit play again. I'm sorry, it's only 2 minutes 50 seconds. Bear with me, folks. This song is maybe one of the more boring ones, but then we'll move on to more fun things in a little bit. Okay, so that was very sobering, folks, because I hadn't heard really any of these songs on speakers before, and I heard this song very heavy in the high upper mid range. It needs to be rounded, and but you know what? I really think that that's a matter of mastering. I think that's something I'll be able to fix in a mastering session. So um, now I'm trying to log in on the chat so I can write in there too. Do I need to? Because I'm answering verbally to you folks, and it's asking for like um, two-step authorization here. I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble logging in, so I'm just gonna quit the login and just continue answering. Continue answering the chat verbally. I'll just read what you guys say and answer verbally. And so yeah, so I think this bounce will be okay for now. And we'll just make sure to fix the EQ curve issue that I'm noticing with my speakers. Also, we'll listen to reference tracks, in the mastering process to kind of calibrate the ears to what professional mastered music sounds like, and go back and forth a little bit between each track and the reference tracks, and to make sure that this is it's matching the same kind of levels and EQ curve that most professionally produced music hits. So yeah, that'll do for now. Let's go on to the next song. So for some reason the hip hop song wasn't opening. It was let's try the Simple Touch song. We're gonna save the changes to the live Swam composition. Yeah, Simple Touch opened. So this is the one that we focused on a piece of gear, right? We were using the Simple Touch synthesizer, uh, kind of demonstrating it, what it did, and how to use it, and then using it to create most of a song. Like there's a couple of things here. I think there's an organ, my Yamaha YC that we sent through the Touch synth as an effects processor. So you can go back and watch the process of composing this. I'm just giving you a quick reminder of how it was done. And again, let's have a listen. In fact, I think I might go ahead and have a listen with the microphone off and the speakers on. And as I should, I guess. Okay. So one thing I noticed right away, I'm gonna just keep my headphones off. One thing I noticed right away is that again we're clipping here. We have no headroom. We're hitting the zero. So we should lower the volume for everything in this track. However, there might be automation. There might be volume automation. And what happens is if you just grab the faders and bring them down, any of them that have volume automation will just snap right back to where the volume line that was drawn is, and that'll change our balance. So first thing I'm going to check is if there is volume automation. The way you do that is just select option so that what you do to one track happens to all of them. And we'll click on waveform here and change that to volume. And lo and behold, excuse me, there's volume automation on the organ here. So already I can simply bring everybody down. Another thing to check when doing this kind of level correction. Well, let's go ahead and remove the click track. We don't need that. Another thing to check is if there are any subgroups. For example, if the drums are going to a subgroup, you don't want to lower the volume of the individual drum tracks. You just want to lower the volume of the drum subgroup. But in this case, there isn't, right? The only auxiliary is the reverb over here. And you can see by the little arrow on top of the verb that this is an auxiliary track. All the other tracks have the little waveform symbol, which means they're normal audio tracks. So this means we can go ahead and change the volume on all of these tracks, except for the reverb one, and we'll be able to create headroom without changing the internal balance of the mix, right? Now the way to do this is with automation here. Now there seems to be, let's go to waveform. What is this? I think this is something that we didn't use on the song, right? Because the end of the song is at this marker right here, right? So let's erase that just to clean up the session a little bit. Make sure that only what is actually used, what is part of the composition, is all that we're hearing. Let's check the beginning here. It seems to already start with sound. So we don't need to worry about creating a start marker. We just start from the beginning. I'm going to create a tiny little fade here because I feel like it's clicking a little bit, the bass. There we go. No more clicking. Now the trick here is to create a group called level adjust that includes all the tracks you want to adjust the level of. And that's all of them except for the reverb, right? That's the only reason I'm not using all tracks here on the groups, is because all tracks would include the reverb and we don't want that. So we're going to create a group called level adjust. All right? That's just so I know what the group is for, and then I can disable it afterwards so I can make individual adjustments if I need to. Now we'll go back to looking at waveform, and what we'll do is we'll grab any one of these. We'll use the trimmer tool on Pro Tools and grab any one of these volume lines after the end of the song and move it down a couple of dBs. And as you can see, all of them move the same amount. And that includes the automation, right? So it's a little complex, folks, I know, but they're the necessary steps to maintain the internal balance. If I just moved the faders without using the automation lanes, then this one that has an automation, all of them would just move, right? But the one that has a drawn automation would stay exactly as it is, and it would change the balance of our mix. So we don't want to do that. It's a little bit of a Pro Tools lesson here today. I'm sure this is done differently in different DAWs. Let's have a listen now and look at the master fader. Yeah, it looks like we're around -4 and -6 dBs here. Let's go back and listen to the entire song on speakers. I'm going to again turn off my vocal microphone here so that you can so that the speaker sound doesn't go in through the microphone and we're all listening to just the pure audio. All right. So far, so good, though. This one already feels much more well-rounded as far as the frequency ranges. There's lots of nice low end happening that I didn't feel on the previous track. So let's go. Right off the bat, I feel like it's going to be more interesting to create a little bit of on this initial bass here, create a little bit of panning interest. So I'm going to hit auto touch. Oh, see, auto read, we have to deselect the level adjust group so that now we can do things individually. So that's on the base dupe here. And what else is on there? So it looks like, yeah, it comes in again doing like a baseline thing, right? So we only want this panning thing to happen in the beginning of the track. So in fact, maybe instead of trying to do it with moving faders, we should just use the volume, not volume, pan left. Uh, and what we'll do is um, create a pan movement like from left to right here. But maybe we don't want to be so radical, right? So we'll start the movement at a not extreme point and not go all the way extreme either. And we'll copy this, right? We'll copy this and paste it on the right pan. Oh, it's not letting me. Huh. Interesting. I thought that I could copy the automation. Uh, I know I can if it's the same parameter, but I guess since it's pan right rather than left, we're just gonna have to redraw it. Right. So we're gonna oh, make sure you put a point here so it doesn't move the rest of your track. Right. And we're gonna move these around about to here and this one about to here, which is more or less what we did there. Let's listen to this. Hear what. Yeah, see, that's much more interesting. So now this sound goes around. So this is what's considered uh, dynamic mixing, right? Once you get a good static mix, which is a good balance of sounds and volumes and stuff, without any automation, the next step is the dynamic mixing, which is dynamic not meaning volume, but meaning changes over time, like dynamism, right? So already that's more interesting for the intro. Hopefully I won't need to do anything else and we'll listen to the whole song and like it, bounce it to disc and move on to the next one. Not a lot of time left. I don't think we're going to get to mastering today, folks, actually, because it's already been an hour of streaming and we're only on song 2. So we might need a couple of, as it has been, because I've been talking a lot. Uh, most projects have taken about 3 streams to conclude, 3 or 4. So I think this mixing and mastering of 10 songs might be one of those projects. But let's just trudge along. Okay, this break right here, I felt like it was super abrupt and maybe maybe clicked a bit. So we're gonna create a tiny fade out in these audio files here, just to make sure. The abruptness is not bad, but we don't want it to sound like a mistake, like something failed. Sometimes you do for some things, but this is not one of those cases. It was jarring to me. So let's listen from there. Another thing we might try is to let the reverb. See, I dipped the reverb here to emphasize the cut, but maybe that's too much. So let's listen with the reverb. Yeah, I can't really even hear that reverb much anyway. It's only on the hat and rim. So yeah, it probably didn't make any difference. I think these string loops are sounding super dry. Maybe these belong in the reverb a little bit too. If even from the beginning of the track, I felt like they were sounding a little dry, which can be an aesthetic. Oh boy, I just sent everybody to the reverb. Just fine. I'll just put up the faders for the strings here. Now there's some clicking happening here from bad editing that doesn't bother me. Sometimes it doesn't bother me. Like sometimes it sounds like part of the aesthetic, such as like I could very easily do a global crossfade here and get rid of those little clicks. But I kind of like them. Right? Okay. So already I feel like the string loops are not so dry. Even in the beginning, I felt like they were a little too dry. Oh, hey, we have a very special guest here today. I hope she hasn't left. Neurodivergent. How are you doing, Jen? I think your name is probably Jen. If I catch your pun with your channel name, I know you can't stay long. You just wanted to say hi and thank me for my music, and I have to thank you as well for using it and making it. Having other people spreading my music in the neurodivergent community. Thank you very much, neurodivergent. Methupa says, kind of sounds like Black Panther melody. You know what? I don't have that melody in my head right now, so I can't quite understand your reference at the moment, Methupa. But I will listen later and try to see the similarity. But anyway, we were at the end already over here. Oh no, I've been talking with the mic off, folks. Sorry about that. I was narrating. Yeah, I keep forgetting to turn it back on now that we're using speakers. That's like a new thing for the stream, is to actually use speakers in the air, which means that I have to mute my vocal mic, so you're not getting double the sound, right? You're not getting like through the mic. But then when I want to talk, I have to remember to turn the mic back on. So I was basically saying that I'm happy with the song as it is now. We adjusted the levels. We made a little panning thing in the beginning. We fixed the jarring break. We added a little bit of reverb to the string loops, and I like it already. Oh, another thing we need to do is name these songs. I should already be naming them, but maybe that'll happen in the mastering uh, portion. But if anyone has an idea for a name, I might be open to it. Okay. Uh, yeah, Ludwig Göransson featuring Baba Mao. Okay, I'll look for that. I know Ludwig did the score for Black Panther. In fact, he was Black Panther director's college roomie. Talk about good luck for a composer, huh? So, okay, we're gonna do an online bounce of this song. Have one last listen to it, and to make sure that the bounce is perfect. Then move on to song number 3. Weird error message here, folks. Let's try this again. All right, we don't want it there. We want this to be in the Human Music V1 Master folder. Right, 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. Maybe Simple Touch is actually a good name for this song. I'm just gonna call it that. 24-bit, 24 directory, where I chose the correct directory, offline, and bounce it. There you go. Cool beans. So Mithupa, yes, these will be released on Spotify, Apple Music, all of this. I'm going to put them up on DistroKid, so they'll be up on all of the main streaming platforms, and they'll also I'll probably upload them separately as videos on YouTube, so that they are there, but I won't set up Content ID or YouTube Music because I want these to be free to use unmonetized videos as if they were part of the YouTube audio library, even though they're not. They're my own private library, but I have been lucky with songs being free on YouTube. I think it helps people use them more, and they become more popular. So I'm exchanging, the few cents I'd make from them from monetizing them on YouTube for the virality possibility of being free. So that's my strategy there. Um, so yeah, so let's move on to the next one. Okay, let's close this session. I think this is pretty good for what it is. Save. And already we've named this one. What should we name the other one? I think we should name them already. So over here on VI1 Master, the other one I did, right, this one, it's that very experimental, avant-garde. Well, I'm looking at the instrument, the software instrument. It's called Swam. So it makes me think of the word swam, swan, like Swan Lake or Black Swan. So what if I call it something with the word swan in it? Swan dance. For now, we'll call this one Swan Dance. So yeah, this is a fun part of the process is naming the songs. So okay, so we should name color the songs that we've done already. So we've done Swam. I'm gonna put a blue on it to indicate that we've already done that, and the simple touch as well. So how about the layered improv? I don't even remember what this sounds like. Let's see if this session opens. It doesn't get locked up. Yeah, it opened. Cool. And this time I'm gonna have a listen with headphones on before, and just to make sure that the levels are okay. Already is hitting zero here. So we're gonna do that level adjustment procedure. We're gonna grab the sub drums, the bass, the guitar, the second guitar, the electric piano, and the organ, right? And we're gonna create a group called level adjust, and we're gonna check to see if there's any volume automation. So option, volume, and if we don't see any volume automation at all, and we don't, that means we can simply grab these faders and move them down a bit, right? We can go, now we can see as we hit play, we can see that it's hitting here between 4 and 6, minus 4 and 6, minus 6 dB. That's good enough. We can get rid of the click track. Hate to see a click track there. No need for it. And now we can go ahead and listen to the song, see if there's any editing or mixing, additional editing or mixing needed to make it sound better. We can go back to looking at the waveforms here, and let's listen. Okay, real quick, Methupa had a good idea. He said if we can think of a common theme to the album, and I've done that. We can think of names of the songs that don't go out of the theme. Now, I don't know because I was so eclectic with the genres that I think it's just a collection, of songs. It's going to be called Human Music Volume 1. And it couldn't be more uh, generic than that. But already we have Simple Touch and Swan Dance. So I think those if we can kind of see a theme already there, right? With movement, perhaps dancing, touching, maybe senses and feelings. So I'll keep that kind of present in my subconscious in the background as I name these songs. But I think it's more about the vibe of each song, like try to catch the a feel for the vibe of each song and name the song appropriately. Swan Dance, the previous one. Yeah, that's right. Swan Dance, Simple Touch. Those are the ones we have so far, and they already sound kind of in some way like they belong together, even though they sound so different. Like they don't sound like they were made by the same composer at all, which is kind of my thing, my excessive versatility or eclecticness. Okay, so let's go back to listening to this one. In fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and listen to it on speakers. So I'm going to again turn off the vocal mic as we listen. I'm feeling like everything is a little, even though they have stereo image, the guitar and electric piano, they have this kind of panning thing. I still feel like everything is kind of balanced, centered. Um, Apollo Joy, sir, when we should use the built-in compressor on SSL channel? Um, oh, do you mean the plugin? Oh, that's a good compressor. That's anytime you need a compressor, that's a good one to use. Um, I just seem to have different go-to compressors. When I just need a compressor, for example, I might use the CLA 1176 because it's a classic kind of compression response that works well for drums, right? But I could have easily used the SSL. Like, let's do that for the guitar here. Uh, I'm going to load up the SSL channel, which I think I have. Yep, SSL channel. And it has a built-in compressor right here that you just need to raise the ratio because it starts at 1, which means basically it's off. So, around 4 is the maximum that I would use. And then you set the threshold so you can see, you see it acting by looking at the LEDs here. Um, And this threshold is strange because you go clockwise to go lower, right? But but it also makes sense because you go clockwise to have it act more. So that's probably how you should think of it. So yeah, it's a good compressor right there. Maybe we can, since we have the channel here, we might as well have a little bit of a low cut to clean up the channel so it's not fighting the bass. And also, as I was saying before, I feel like the guitar and the electric piano, maybe they should be panned slightly left and right so that you have a more interesting sonic field here. Now I'm also gonna use this SSL channel on the electric piano because I need to clean up those low ends. It has a little bit too much low end. And compress it. I gave it a little brightness too. And that way they don't fight the bass so much. All right, let's let them happen. All right, now let's open up the Hammond organ and the second guitar. Before we open up the drums, we're going to have a listen to the balance and frequency range of these instruments in particular. Now, the B3 organ already has Leslie doing like, doing the Leslie thing of like a rotating speaker. So it's got its own like stereo interest. But I don't know, maybe it could also use some kind of auto pan additionally. Looks like the GoPro is gonna die, folks. We're gonna lose that camera soon, but we don't need it. We don't need it because I'm not playing anything today. I'm just mixing and mastering, so we can actually use this section of my screen for plugins. In fact, um, so yeah, I was looking at using some kind of additional panning kind of a dealy on the Hammond organ. I think it would sound nice. So the Mondo mod maybe. Let's go to where the Hammond comes in, which is about here on the song. Oh, Apollo Joy is asking where the attack on the SSL and how do we know? So the attack is how long the compressor will take before it goes into, before it acts, right? So if you want, for example, if you're on a percussion sound, if you want to preserve that initial, that initial attack transient, you set the attack a little bit slower, like around 20 to 30 milliseconds. That lets that first transient sound strong, and then it flattens out the rest of the response. So that's a good place to use a slowish attack. Now, on, for example, a voice, you wouldn't want that, right? You wouldn't want that initial sound of the voice to like jump at you and then get squished. You'd probably want the voice to be compressed right away. So you'd use a fast attack. So it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Because a drum has a fast attack. So you'd think, oh, so I set the compressor with a fast attack. But I guess an interesting way to think about it, I wouldn't call it a rule of thumb exactly, because your mileage will vary, but it's fast attack instruments, slow attack compressor, slow attack instruments, fast attack compressor. I just made that up. I hadn't heard that before, and I don't think it'll always apply. But I don't think the SSL compressor has much control. I think it only has a fast or slow switch, doesn't it? Let's have a look. Um, yeah, fast attack, see, or slow attack. I guess fast attack would be when it switches to the right. I'm not sure. Right? Usually to the right is when you turn it on, or maybe fast is when it's on where where that's written. But you also listen. Use your ears, listen to the compressor, and if you think like it's acting too fast and you want it to act a little, it's hard to hear that kind of a thing. So you have to be careful. And there's also a release control here. I just left it in the middle in both cases here. It sounded okay to me. But yeah, that's another thing too. Like how long you want the compressor to wait before going back, and that has to do with like if it's instruments that are hitting often, like rhythmically, you might want a quick release so that the compressor is back and ready for the next attack. Right? If you leave a long release, then it'll be soft when the next attack comes in. So you want a fast release and slow attack for percussive instruments, and maybe slow release and fast attack for vocals and things like that. Right now I have it in kind of a middle position here, which I think is working fine for this. Let's listen to the Mondo mod. Uh, Auto pan kind of thing. I'm kind of liking it. Kind of liking it. And then now let's listen to the second guitar. Right when the second guitar comes in, uh, now as you can see, the second guitar only acts when the first guitar is quiet. So it should take the same space as the other one. So I'm going to mimic the panning. So guitar 2, let's call it guitar 2 instead of dupe. It's probably just the same guitar. The reason I moved it to a different channel was so I wouldn't interrupt the decay, see, of the first guitar as the second one comes in. But it's really only one guitar sounding most of the time, except for these little moments where the decay of one covers the attack of another. So that's the reason why I used 2 tracks for the guitar here. So in order to keep it balanced, since the electric piano is always a little bit to the right, right? We want both guitars to be a little to the left to balance it out. So let's listen to. I think now's a good time to open up the drums and listen to the whole thing. Yeah, this song needed a little bit more mixing than other songs. It was kind of raw. In fact, look at the drums. There's no plugins at all on the drums. Maybe we can make the drums sound a little better. Oh, hold on a second, folks. I have to answer a call. Bueno, sí. Ah, muchas gracias. Todavía no. Okay, they were offering to come bathe my dogs. So Apollo Joy, how you make, he says, or she says, how you make your guitar panning left, but you still feel the presence of guitar on right to use stereo delay. That's a good idea. But also, right now the guitar is a stereo guitar. I used um, probably used a pedal that does. I think I used the chorus on this guitar sound. And the way I'm just not hard panning it. See, I'm panning it slightly to the left. The way I'm doing that is normally since it's stereo, you have one track of the stereo panned hard left, the other hard right. If you just move the one that's hard right a little bit towards center, you've already changed the balance. You've kind of moved that guitar that's like this, you moved it like this, right? So you're leaving a little room over here that gets filled by the electric piano. So it's still present somewhat on the right side. I didn't remove it completely from the right side. I just moved it a little bit more towards center. Um, but yeah, using a stereo delay is a good way, to do that as well. You can use a mono guitar, pan it left, but then have a delay that makes it, sound on both sides, like a ping pong delay, and that maintains a little bit of that guitar presence on both sides. I'm loving that you have questions, Apollo Joy. I like teaching, so having specific questions like this is nice. Thank you for asking. Let's go back to listening to the drums here. I think I should do something about the kick drum sound in particular. Let's have a listen to just that. So I'm going to hold control and kick, and I'm going to listen to the floor tom as well as the kick, because the floor tom microphone that I use is an RE20 under the floor tom, facing the bass drum beater. So it acts on as a kick drum mic as well. So both together. So I'm gonna put an EQ here. Maybe you inspired me to use the SSL. Yeah, let's get a little more kick in there. So around 3K is a good frequency to add some kickiness, some presence to the kick drum. But I'm also adding some highs here, which are about 8 kilohertz. I'm adding some 8 kilohertz as well for a little more of that clicky sound from the bass drum beater. And we can use a gate too, because we're getting a lot of snare drum bleed. Is that from the other mic though? Let's see. No, it's on both, so we can use a little bit of a gate. And why not some compression as well? So I'm going to turn the ratio up. And we don't want the fast attack. We want the slow attack. And maybe we want a little bit of low frequency boost. Now it's clipping here, so maybe turn down the volume a tiny bit. Now let's hear with bypass to make sure it sounds better now than before. Yeah, it definitely sounds better. Now let's also open up the floor tom and listen to them together. Important, I am using this trim plugin here to invert the polarity of the floor tom microphone because it's coming from underneath, whereas all the other microphones are coming from above. So the capsule is moving against in the opposite direction. So I'm inverting. I have this little button here that inverts the phase of the floor tom microphone. But yeah, I think that's all we need. I don't. I have good microphones. on a good room, on a good drum set. So I don't use a lot of plugins, a lot of EQ on my drums, and they sound pretty good. I did get the kick drum to sound a little better now, so let's just listen to the whole thing. And the drum take sounds a little floppy because I'm not a very precise drummer, and I recorded this improvising without a metronome. So it sounds very human, like keeping the theme, humanmusic.org here, folks. Let's listen to the whole thing now. I like it. I think it's good enough so we can move on. And I only have about 10 minutes left. Maybe we can do one more song. Is that Rhodes piano, sir? I like it. Yeah, it's Rhodes piano sound. I think, in fact, it's a mix of Rhodes and Wurlitzer from my Casio. It's the CK61 by Yamaha. Since it says CK, I just called it a Casio, but it's a Yamaha elect stage piano that I got recently. In fact, I think this is the sound. So it's not a real electric piano. I do own a Hohner Pianet T electric piano, which is a real one, acoustic one. Well, electroacoustic one. It's over there. It sounds really nice. But this one is more, I can get that Rhodes sound and even mix with the Whirly, and I'm really enjoying it. The keypad feels really nice. A uh, I can use a sustain pedal, which you can't do on the Pianet. Methupa is asking how do I mix the kick and the bass? The same way porcupines make love, very carefully. Sorry about that joke. Yeah, I just kind of, if they don't cause a problem, I don't worry about them. Like, if I notice that they're fighting each other, then I have to kind of scoop out frequencies. So kind of figure out what the bass, which one is. Well, sometimes the bass doesn't need to be like super low. If you're liking that kick being super low, the bass can be more mid-rangey, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the kick can be more in the low mids, and the bass is what gives it that nice roundness in the bottom. So it depends really on the genre, on the kind of song, on the instruments you used. Right now, let's listen to just drums and bass and see if they're fighting each other. Not really. I mean, in extreme cases, you can even use um, what they call ducking, right? So you can have the kick drum trigger a compressor set on the bass channel. So whenever the kick drum hits, the compressor will lower the bass sound a little bit. That's used a lot in electronic music, not so much in this kind of thing where it's more like a rock and roll vibe. So yeah, so it really depends. It's all about listening, and if you notice that they're fighting for the same frequency range, then you have to kind of find a spot in the spectrum for each one. Methupa liked my joke. He's laughing at it. Yeah, you have to be. But in this case, I didn't even worry. See, I didn't even compare them because I was hearing both fairly well. So I didn't worry about like comparing the bass and kick frequencies. They seem to be coexisting okay. I have a Renaissance bass plugin here, which is creating. It's kind of an exciter. It's creating like around 60 hertz, creating a boost in bass frequencies for the bass guitar in around 60 hertz. I also have a distortion giving the bass guitar a little bit of grit, which gives it some presence. That helps. And there's also a compressor to keep it very present in the mix. So again, let's listen to the whole song. Why don't we do it? Why don't we listen to it while it's bouncing? That way, if we like it already, we have the bounce. So here we go. What should we call this one? This one's called live layered improv right now because that's just the process I used to compose it. We already have Swan Dance and Simple Touch. This one might be called. Well, it's pretty human because it's very kind of flawed. So maybe warts and all. No, that sounds bad. Warts sound bad. I don't know. What should I name it? Porcupine? Porcupine. Porcupine is good. Inspired. So animals. So far we have two animals: the swan and the porcupine. Maybe that's the theme. We'll keep our eyes out for a possible theme here. Porcupine. I think is a good name for it. Let's choose the location. We want it to be on this folder right here. Open. This is the V1 master. And we want it to be 24-bit, 48 kilohertz because we're still going to master it. So we're going to keep it in the original resolution until we bounce it down probably 1644, which is like CD standard. And that's what we'll use to upload to the streaming services. But that's after mastering. For now, we're just mixing. I will do mastering in the same session as mixing when I'm doing one-offs. But since this is going to be an album, it's going to be a compilation, we're going to master the songs in one single session and make sure that they work together, at least as far as spectral frequency content and loudness, right? So let's bounce it, listen to it. And in fact, it looks like because of the time, that might be our last one today. Maybe we can just listen to another one. So let's do it. Bounce. So yeah, Mithupa. Maybe the theme is human music, you say, so we can connect the names with nature. We have with swan, and now we have porcupine, and also simple touch, right? Touch, it's very human. So yeah, let's keep things organic and human and nature-like. Um, Apollo Joy asks me how loud I master. Well, it depends on the service. Like for YouTube, they want it around minus 14, like you say. Sometimes I can go as loud as minus 12. Um, but I usually just try to master as loud as I can without it sounding bad. So for some, it depends on the genre too. Some things can be more squished and still sound good. So you can go up to minus 9 for like a really heavy metal track. It depends a little bit. But yeah, I stay around minus 12 maybe. Minus 14 is okay too. Depends a little bit on the genre and the service that I'm working for. If it's for Facebook, if it's for YouTube, if it's for my own thing, then I just kind of, you know, wing it a little bit, do it more naturally. So good, so nature feeling. That's right. So I have 3 minutes, but I can probably go over like five or so. So let's maybe open up another song, and maybe we're lucky and it doesn't need much, and we can already bounce it. So let's label this one. This one was the layered improv. We're gonna label it blue because we've already mixed it. And let's move on to the bossa, live stream bossa. And number 2 here is probably the one. Let's see if it opens without any issues. And it did. So let's have a listen to this song. And maybe if we're lucky, it already sounds good and we can bounce it and have 4 songs done. So that's almost half of all the mixing. And then we can do another day of mixing for the other ones, and the third day for the mastering, which is I recommend you all come watch me master because I use really cool, simple, easy procedure that I learned a long time ago that you can only do digitally on DAWs, like people used to. Still, many use hardware for mastering, but if you're using software, you can do things in a very intelligent and efficient way that works really well. So let's listen to this song. Yeah, I think these strings sound very fake and MIDI-like, so I'm trying to make them sound like more old school by using this tape simulation plugin and kind of really push it so it sounds a little more distorted and fluttery and stuff. I think that'll be nice. Yeah, these you don't want like pristine fake strings on a song like this. Yeah, this already sounds better. This is my fretless bass. I'm using some kind of tuning plugin on it. And yeah, the Waves Live tune because my intonation wasn't great that day. I'm also using the R bass, giving it a boost around 70 hertz. And the EQ is filtering out some of the high frequencies there. Now the electronic drums sound really nice. It's my modular synthesizer. And then there's real drums. Let's listen to just the drums together, electronic and real drums. Yeah, I think that that rim sound is a little loud. That's we want to bring just that one down a little bit. This is the nylon string guitar. I'm using the SSL on that one. Check it out. Might as well use a little compression there. I am using some, but we can use more. Yeah, the electric guitar on this is reversed and it's clicking a little bit on the edits. So we're gonna go ahead and do like a global crossfade here just to get rid of those clicks. So that sounds better. There's a bass, strings, and this organ here. This organ is sounding a little too bassy, so it might be fighting with, might be taking up some of the bandwidth from the bass. So we'll just filter it slightly. And there's a compressor on there. Okay, I'm liking this one. This feels like a hero going on an adventure kind of song, maybe Journey to Somewhere that has a name related to the genre or somewhere you like. Cool, Matupa. That's a cool idea for naming this song. Journey to Nowhere or Journey to somewhere in Brazil because it's a bossa nova and I'm a Brazilian. Uh, Journey to Nowhere sounds like a song that already exists. I'm sure somebody's done that. I have a whole album called Journey Inward of experimental electronic music made with modular synthesizers. So you know what though, folks? I don't want to rush this. So I don't feel like we have enough time left to properly assess this song and consider it done. But hey, you know, we might as well do a bounce. I have time for a bounce. I think I already fixed a few things about it. We can do a bounce and then do a last double check and redo it if necessary next time, which will be the day after tomorrow. Okay, I can't stream tomorrow because I have a very important film scoring assignment that's going to take the whole day. So I'll be back on Friday to finish mixing these songs, and then we'll do mastering probably on Monday. Okay, just to keep you all in the loop. And let's do a bounce of this song. Just I can tell that it's not clipping, right? So we don't need to do any level adjustment. Get rid of the click track, and let's just see when it starts and where it ends. So yeah, there's already a marker for the start here. Is there a marker for the end as well? No, so let's do that. And that's about where the reverb stops. So we'll add a marker here. Now, this bass, it's doing a glissando up, and the plugin that's tuning it is doing some weird things. So we're gonna add the bypass. We're gonna go here to the automation and add the bypass, master bypass to the automatable parameters, and we're going to choose Waves Tune Master Bypass on here, and we're going to bypass it for that last note. Easy as that, right? Let's hear that. Oh, it still sounds a little weird. It is bypassed though, you can see right on the plugin itself, right? Yeah, it still has a certain glitchiness to it, but I think it's better. So let's go ahead and select our range for the bounce. So green locator is the end. Uh-oh, I made a mistake. Green locator is the end. And start locator is the beginning. And we can option command B for bounce. We're gonna call this journey home. Journey home, my home, Brazil. And we're gonna choose the right folder. And this is song number 4. And if we're lucky, it's a good enough bounce. And we can just move on. But we'll have a second listen on Friday, folks. All right, so let's listen to this, and then I'll say goodbye and run off to get my girls from school. Bonsoir Lumimia. Bienvenue. Folks, I'm gonna have to run. I'm not gonna take my usual seconds to say goodbye at the end of this bounce, because I can't be late, especially because today 2 little friends of my daughters are coming to play. If I'm late, on se croirait à Saint-Tropez. Ah, merci, Lumimia. J'adore aussi la rivière française. All right, Matupa, Apologize, Lumimia, thank you very much for joining, and I will very quickly this time just say goodbye and see you